Hi everyone, good to see you here. Happy Friday and all that. Tom's outside on his balcony. He's going to have an Evita moment later. He's a good singer apparently. So we're here today to hear all about branding and versus debranding. Just to make you aware, we've got some really good offers later, so hang about. We've got handouts which I'll release in a bit as well for you all. And just to say as well, sometimes I know we've got 10 o'clock meetings, but you can catch up on demand as well. And if you ever wanted the transcript, we'd always send that across to you as well. But it's good to see you all. I'm going to be managing the Q&A. There's quite a few members of staff in the background as well. If you can just let us know you can hear us. We've done a bit of a sound test already, but I think everything's looking good. So I'm trying to think what else to say. It's just it's a Friday, isn't it? Happy days. Oh, we've got a poll today, Tom. We've got a poll.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, if we could do the poll first, that'd be fantastic. Are you okay to
start that?
Push that to everyone?
Okay, I've just released that. Tom, do you want to read over it, or shall I go for it?
It's okay, I'll do it if that's all right.
Go for it then. Go on then.
Brilliant. So thank you for that. So everyone, I'm Tom. First of all, if we could put the choices through for this poll. If you know what debranding is, if not, just whack that option there.
I'll just read them out for everybody. Do you feel your brand needs a debrand? Yes, we need a debrand right away. Yes, I think we need a debrand. Maybe I'll let you know at the end. I like that one. Maybe, but I have no idea what debranding is. I think it's simplification. I'm just saying. And no, we are all good.
So they're coming through thick and fast now. So the majority of people actually is D. Maybe I have no idea what debranding is. Well, that's great.
You're in the right place.
Absolutely. We'll have an idea of exactly what that is in a moment. So I'm going to share my screen and get on with this the presentation now, guys, if that's okay.
And I'm going to turn my audio off, but I'm in the background, guys. I think Jordan's around as well. So we're here to help. Okay.
Awesome. So
see you later with all the decent offers. Bye.
So straight into it today. Just to capitalize. So first of all, obviously debranding is essentially stripping back brand and making things a lot clearer. So as you can see today, we've actually stripped back the boundaries of a webinar in the pure creative sense, and we've actually gone by the river today. So awesome little backdrop. Thank goodness it's not raining. So just as a little bit of an intro, I'm Thom Shardlow. I'm head of client strategy here at Anika and also creative. So we're going around audience first approach, looking at how we can impact and engage with our audience at any given level with all of the different and latest best practices throughout all the digital platforms, from social media through to search, and obviously also your own channels such as your website. So just a bit about us for anybody new here. Obviously you can see I'm sat by that river in the bottom photo there. We are in our 15th year, hence the Anika 15 logo, which you can see here. Got 27 crew at the present, 45 clients of anybody from local government right through to the likes of Experian here. And we are passionate about all things digital and technical and creative in this establishment. So without further ado, I'll tell you a bit about our missions this year, one of which is this going local and spreading the joy of our technical expertise via things such as free webinars most Fridays. If you have any reason to talk to us from any specific digital need, we're here and able to help. So debranding, hopefully this will help with what a lot of people said on the poll who don't know what it is. So effectively, debranding is a simplified and clean visual presentation of your logo or brand, potentially including the restoration of a previous logo from a simpler time. Now, that might not make things too clear at the moment, but hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to tell anybody and everybody what debranding is and why you should embrace it at this moment in time. So, why would you debrand? Okay, So before actually showing you what that is, the reasons for doing so might be something around moving away from negative connotations. So a prime example of that at the moment, we might have seen or had some quite annoying experiences with a distribution company called Hermes. They've recently debranded or rebranded into a company called Every to kind of shift off those negative connotations of what you might associate with the Hermes brand. Relaunching a new product or service. We saw a lot of relaunch through pandemic, which is why we're in such a boom of debranding at the moment. So it's about reinventing yourself. Simplifying a complex identity, probably something that's created before the digital age, something that doesn't transcend very well into that digital form. So that's another reason for doing so. Standing out more in this digital age, obviously, we've got everything from little favicons at the top of a website that needs to get across that reason for obviously displaying your brand in the first place, and connecting with your audience on a more personal level. So this is the power of a brand at this particular point in terms of if you adapt into a more trend-based approach, you're actually being more relevant to your audience. And so you're able to interact with those guys. So how old is debranding? So everybody seems to think it's brand new, but actually looking at that process and understanding where it's all come from, we can go back to around Nike is probably the first area. So first of all, quick guesses when you think that Nike went from a no-word brand straight through to the sole usage of the swoosh as their overarching brand. Any guesses? Come on. The last one was 1985 there. When do you think it was? I can't see you, but I'm sure hopefully people are putting in the guesses of a year in the chat at the moment. 3, 2, 1. It was 1995. So that's really around when this debranding movement started. It was at the point where a big global corporation like Nike did not need the word anymore. It was globally recognized enough to drop that word mark. And so this is really the dawn of this era of when debranding was coined. Now, when anybody does this on a corporation level, it's soon copied or looked at, and you started getting a bit of a movement. So 4 years later, Shell went back to this no-word branding in 1999, for example. But actually, the dawn of Shell, they spent the first 48 years as a debranded approach. So when we said at the start, go back to a simpler time, this is what we mean by that. So again, Shell, 1999. McDonald's, actually from the year 2000, had a no-word icon. They introduced the I'm Loving It strapline in 2003, but they've been a simple flat golden arch since 2006 now. So it's actually quite old in that respect. Starbucks, it's actually 11 years since Starbucks stopped zooming in to their brand. So actually they dropped the word Starbucks in 2011. And there was a theory at one point that you'll just see zoomed into the nose because they just kept zooming into the brand, but they have stopped there. So that for the time being. So it's been around a while. Now, debranding became then this era of personalization, and that was around 2015 when Share a Coke came out, and it was at the point where a big corporation like Coke were able to push their typeface through people's names essentially, and you could find personalized bottles, and it was more of a reason to actually purchase. Now, the reason they did this was obviously, it works at a corporation level because everybody knows the Coca-Cola brand. It added that personalization and anonymization as well to the brand, which became more relatable. It removed the business and it creates a more relevant purchase and a bit of a gimmick. It altered that global brand mentality. However, it's unlikely this approach to work on a small level. in terms of small business because you haven't got that global recognition. It's hard to emulate, but if you did meet that criteria of personalization on a global brand level, it became this boom. And we've all been in and amongst this boom. And it's absolutely mental because we went from personalized Nutella, personalized Quality Street. That Quality Street tin, by the way, is the best in-law Christmas present you can possibly get. It's from Selfridges in London, but now you can order them online. They're really, really good. Personalized Cadbury's, these throwaway products that everybody was, I mean, personalized beans, for Christ's sake. I mean, everybody really got on the back of it, even to the point of Lego now do this great personalization service. We looked at Love Island and all the personalized water bottles, all the famous whiskies. It was gift central, and the actual product boom through personalization has gone crazy. Even Ian Blyton books, even Disney, it's been around a while. And for crying out loud, you can now have a personalized Nando's sauce. So out of nowhere, even the posh brands like Champagne, it was just this mentalness of personalization boom. And that's what this kind of creates, this debranding copycat culture. Now, that works brilliantly on a level of corporation, as I say, but really, why is this relevant, I suppose, in today's age? And that's because we've gone into this digital economy mode where we all make these split-second digital decisions. The pandemic pushed us more. In one of my previous webinars, I've spoken more about this attention economy as well in the digital economy, about how we make 0.25 split-second questions about what we do, what's relevant for us, what's not. And so we have to stand out. And that's what makes debranding relevant in this particular era. If there's a complex brand, we are just not given the time to actually compute that brand, to decipher what the message is trying to say, and then engage with that content. So we need simplicity at the best level to kind of engage with that, because we are all wonderful data miners now. We make these, it's like the Tinder analogy. It's swipe left, swipe right. What's relevant for me, what's not. So we require these clear paths and clean visuals to get us from A to B. We are all spoilt with user experience, and we'll go more into that and what I mean by that in a moment. And the digital attention is at an absolute premium. Social media channels, as an example, in terms of ads, we're used to just discounting what people are saying. So we need to make that impact in the shortest possible time. And obviously, through digital economy, we've had to go down this mobile first design route. So, all of a sudden our screens have become a lot smaller in terms of what we engage with. And so the user experience has to mimic this smaller way of actually engaging with folks. And finally, because of that, there's pixel pressure. So each pixel is at a premium. So we need to take up as little as possible, but make the most impact as possible with that. So hopefully that's making sense now. So obviously, I said it at the start, this digital economy has become actually the attention economy. And we said before, it's no longer an attention span, it's an attention muscle, because we've all been down the gym training that attention span through all of the digital content that we've actually been looking at. And so we are very, very good at understanding what's relevant to us and what's not. So we need to make that transition into digital a lot quicker for our audience. And this is to thank the likes of Netflix, Uber Eats and Airbnb, who don't have a product. They essentially have a user experience. And we, as users, especially through the pandemic, we're using these channels more and more. Well, not Airbnb, we weren't allowed to go anywhere, but you understand what I mean. We were using these more and more. So actually, when we came from Netflix, came from Uber Eats into the environment of your website, it needs to mimic, it needs to at least try and approach a similar user experience, because all of their marketing budget goes into user experience and how we visualize and interact with that brand. So you need to try and match that approach. So that's what we mean by digital economy and the attention economy, is we've only got so much time to engage with an individual. So that takes us on to this design inflation. And as designers and as creatives, we went through this phase where we were spoiled with the likes of computer software, and we were able to explore options that we've never been able to do from a non-digital craze. So we were able to add shadows just because we could. We added gradients just because we could. We added filters because we could. We rounded corners. We added complex lighting. We had depth and bevels just because we could. And everybody was guilty of playing this role. So we went from this traditional logo to, let's just make it bigger if we can't see it. And let's just add this rounded box to it because that's what an app icon tells us to do. Let's add a gradient. And let's add like a little stroke around it. And also let's just put a drop shadow on that because that's how we should do that. All of a sudden, you've got an untrustworthy, horrible-looking brand that does not represent that original logo mark. And all of a sudden, we started having and using that in a favicon icon. So at the top of your website on the tab. So taking that logo and putting it into a favicon experience made it this pixelated, awful look that didn't represent anything that you were trying to convey in the first place. All of a sudden, that was a dirty red box and your logo got lost in the middle. So debranding is recognizing that in a digital world and pushing it back to what we saw in the first place and actually bringing out the magic of your brand in the first instant. So from that, we became this essentially. So where we do have pixelation, we were able to push that back and go down a more streamlined and fresher look. That conveys trust and that conveys better conversion. So the post-pandemic debranding. So in this new craze, brands want to reconnect with their audience. Now, they also need this mobile-first brand. A lot of the places were on furlough and they've come back and they've gone, right, let's come back with a bang. So they needed to be more relevant and clean. And we all had this opportunity for this new start. And so it's created this amazing new craze where it's actually forced brands to go back to what they were. So the Burger King brand on the left was the original 80s through to the 90s brand. They introduced and they were guilty of utilizing computer software to add this irrelevant blue. And actually, if you stand away and further back from that brand, it becomes a lot less clear and a lot less dynamic. And so last year, they reintroduced a cleaner version of their original icon and bring that back to a cleaner, debranded look. Since then, their sales have boomed. And they've got a lot more relevance and with the user experience. We saw the burger industry of this craft burger look and all these different independent burger joints opening. But actually, Burger King didn't experience a boom in their own product. And they were the flame grilled original burger, the home of the Whopper. So they went back to this craft look and their sales have absolutely boomed since because they've become more relevant. Pringles, we got rid of his hair. We gave him a black tash. He had a bit of Just for Men. His pupils were more dilated, and we introduced a better typography usage within the bow tie itself. And all of a sudden, sales have boomed. It's become simpler. It's become more easy to engage with. It's become more relevant. Pfizer, we probably didn't know about them before the pandemic to a certain degree. They've rebranded. They got rid of the gradient and introduced an icon into the favicon era. So they want to become famous with this new icon. Rolling Stone lost its bevel and drop shadow because stepping back on a mobile experience, it's cleaner and more legible. Intel lost its roundel. It's better. You can zoom in further. You can utilize more of the actual space around it. Even though these are the same size, you can see more impactful how the one on the right is. Disney bought Dorling Kindersley and really stripped that back for a more app-based approach in the audiobook phase. TripAdvisor lost all of its colouring and made the owl the same thickness as the typography. Gmail, this was a very, very important one, because the old Gmail branding was actually the connotations that an email was just a digital version of a letter. No longer do we associate an email with a letter. It's its own entity, it's its own product. And so they brought the Google color schemes back into that with just the M. It kind of still holds the envelope look, but it doesn't rely on the envelope look anymore. And when they did this, they noticed that actually, what other products can we make that same assumption to? And so the likes of Google Maps being a map with a point, now we associated the point of destinations A to B along with the colorways of the actual Google branding. So again, they've debranded that suite. Everybody's at it. I'm sorry for that one. But, you know, even with the Durex branding, they've completely flattened that. They've made it crisper. They've made it more trustworthy. And with a brand that relies solely on trust, it was very, very important. Dunkin' Donuts didn't need the donuts. They sold more. Dunkin' was the brand that was good enough for them, and they dropped the coffee cup icon as well. They didn't need that. Weight Watchers became an opportunity. It wasn't any longer around stigma of weight. It became this WW brand. They even introduced drive-through foods. They've reinvented their brand through their Debrand. Then we go into domino effects and how industry kind of copies one another. And a couple, 3-4 years ago now, Volkswagen approached this Debrand, this rebrand way. One thing to note about the automotive industry is it didn't really change much from the 40s through to probably around 2010. It was the same way of buying a car. It was all dirty diesel and petrol. And you'd go into a dealership and haggle with a salesman. However, in the last 10 years, it's completely flipped. You know, we've seen greener energy. We've seen the introduction of hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles. We've seen a more e-commerce approach to car purchasing. We've seen companies like Kazoo, really push that door-to-door delivery of a vehicle. It's no longer a family decision. You can go and get a new car in a moment. So this Debrand was really important for the automotive industry. And Volkswagen kicked it off by getting rid of all of those badges and the bevel and the drop shadows and the gradients. They stripped it right back to the VW. And with that became this craze of domino of every single manufacturer copycatting and doing the same. So we hit Renault, we got Toyota, we got Kia recently, Nissan stripped right back, Peugeot have become a lion's head, Vauxhall, Rolls-Royce, no, not even the premium guys got away from this, Audi, Mini, BMW, Volvo, again, just this mind explosion of just Debrand Central. Everybody's at it. So in terms of what the industry can do, it really causes this domino effect. And we've seen this time and time again. That was the automotive industry. But we've also seen this little black dress Debrand movement as well. So big high-end brands like Berluti, Burberry, Yves Saint Laurent, Calvin Klein, Balmain, all have gone down this brand new Debrand phase where actually they merge into one. It's this slick brand. And they came from this that we all probably recognize and know to this, and they all look very similar, don't they? They could be quite the same. So it was this, and they are all now this. So they've gone really just impactful. The little black dress, the slick kind of Debrand phase and industry movement that we've gone through. It strips back any complexity. It says right in the face who this person is, who this fashion label are, and what type of product that they can actually service by letting the image speak for itself, where this brand isn't confusing that. It's letting the image and the product just be seen and really pushed to the forefront, and without the complexity of all of this ego, so to speak. So they've stripped back the ego of their brand and gone down this route. We see Debrands actually offer an opportunity as well. It's not just a logo. We'll always say this. It's the whole entire brand. It's color. It's how shape is utilized. And it's how opportunities are captured. So Warner Brothers, you know, we all know the logo on the left from our childhoods. You know, it was created by hand. It was made to be this movie, this Hollywood glamour. And it's been stripped right back to the simple shape of the shield. Now, what they've been able to do then is transport that brand into every genre that they are able to kind of focus upon at any given point. So, you know, a light, bubbly start to a movie becomes the Warner Brothers brand that we know, right through to the grimace of like a Batman or, you know, like the Justice League approach or whatever it may be. And so the Warner Brothers brand has become this window of opportunity where, but by utilizing shape and lockup, they're able to transport you into every genre that they represent. And that's a really clever way of debranding. So we've got everything from the world of Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling to young Sheldon and TV, the kids' TV of animation and cartoon, right through to Hollywood blockbusters with the likes of Wonder Woman. So we've got all of this opportunity through just a simple debrand. We also see a coming of age approach with debranding. And what we mean by that is when companies start out, they are basic, they are product focused, and the brand is neglected. However, as we go through the areas of growth, we become more sophisticated, more clean, and more process driven. And so this is the case for these particular brands. Now, a bit of trivia. Anybody can tell me what Backrub is at the bottom? 1995 to 1997, they use that logo. I'll let people have a little quick guess before I carry on. So around 1999 to 2003, we then went through these logos. You can see Backrub changed its name to Google. Air Bed and Breakfast became the Airbnb that we know today. GoDaddy lost the playfulness of the typography, but kept the icon. Foursquare got rid of the gender-based figure in there as well and became a bit more diverse. GoDaddy stripped everything back after that, just to the actual word. The word was playful enough. Airbnb tried a different approach. Foursquare became the speech bubble. Google, as we knew it in the late 90s, right through to what we see today. The sophistication through that coming of age has just become clean and really, really well taken through at any given point. So, digital debranding. Why this is relevant for what the services we provide, such as social media, web design, even SEO, PPC, whatever it may be. We're all in this digital phase. Now, how does this help? Well, streamlining breaks down roadblocks. And what we mean by that is imagine yourself taking a journey through town where all the lights are on green. It's really frustrating, isn't it, when we hit traffic lights and stop and stop and stop. Well, think of your brand causing these roadblocks through your website. What is it you're trying to achieve? If you're launching a new product, you've put out a social media post, people have clicked, people have hit that website, they've added something to the basket, they eventually actually purchased something through the actual checkout at the end, made that purchase, they've gone the merry way. How is your brand stopping those actions taking place? Is it or is it not? You know, that's what you need to be really critical about. So simplifying your brand will help users reach their intended goals more quickly. Because what I said before is, without even realizing subliminally, we've all become these fantastic data miners where we make these split-second decisions. So actually, is your brand causing grief to these split-second decisions and stopping people actually getting to what they wish and what they want to actually achieve with you? E-commerce is currently down 50% on average after the post-pandemic boom. At Anika, we're on average up by 20% with our clients in e-commerce. And that's because we understand these drop-off points, and we've utilized different areas. So year on year, we're up. The industry is down by half. People were at home. They through the pandemic, they were really engaging. They had more time at home. They were benefiting their home and purchasing new areas. But actually, with the economy and the post-pandemic of Ukraine and fuel and cost of living, e-com has really, really dropped. So we need to be better. We need to utilize our brand in a better way to try and get that back up. And as I say, Annika are up 20% on that. So we know how to effectively, do this and help you get through. So you need to create these thumb-stopping moments. And that's a really important part. We scroll through our phones left, right, and center, going through social media in the politest possible way. Nobody has opened their Instagram feed to look for you. You need an ad that will stop people in their tracks. You need a post that will stop people in their tracks. And with a clear, concise brand that's debranded and stripped back of everything, I understand what I'm looking at straight away. And I'm able to achieve what I came here for, or actually be diverted to an impulsive action, i.e. coming to look at your site and purchase your product. So that's what we need to create. Now, obviously, we've got live examples of what we mean by this. So there's just a couple here, and actually we're nearing the end of this webinar, so we've really got through this quickly. So first of all, we want to show you a client of ours, and we've asked permission to show you this. And it's a fantastic client that came to us from the West Midlands called Latham Steel Security Doors. And their ambition is brilliant. It's just what they want to achieve. It's encouraging. We understand what they wanted to get out of it. They were really pushing influencers and really trying to reinvent themselves and bring a younger mindset to their approach and their product. Effectively, it's steel security doors, but they're really passionate about actually bringing down that lower mindset. So we simply, first of all, came to them and said, well, we need to strip back and debrand you. It's an impactful logo as it is, but actually what's relevant within that? So we looked at all of their different feeds. So these are their Instagram. It's not bad by any means. We looked at all the different posts, but they could be anyone really. They're not going to stop me in my tracks by any means. If I'm scrolling through my Instagram, I'm not going to look at that and go, oh, I always wanted one of those red doors. So that's why we had to be brutally honest and go, right, well, you've got this established brand, but let's just strip it back a little bit and simplify that. So this, what we showed you there, became effectively this. It's a cleaner use of blue. It was removal of the actual strap line. We locked it up in a different way. We redrew it and made it crisper. And that was as simple as that. But also it allowed us to utilize color in a new way, color that they'd never used really before. And make that like kind of playfulness come to life. And all of a sudden, their social media posts through shape, through color, and brand became this. A lot more impactful, a lot more overlay, a lot more, well, what's this all about? A best ever breakthrough. It's got the door, it's got the product. It's also their influencer. We utilize the gray, their content for influencers, their product and brand. We utilize shape and color with the actual brand itself. And already that's really working for these guys. So, we're really excited to launch this and get that through. And we would class that as a successful debrand. And we're going through test and learn with those guys at the moment. Another one we onboarded was a client called #Quiz, who essentially is a quizzing platform where you can go and host and create your own quiz content for pub quizzes, for friends and family, whatever it may be. And so they were going into corporations and trying to get deals and subscriptions, but actually their brand didn't match their outlook. And so we were able to make them more sophisticated and give them more options through a stripped back debrand. So it went from this over to this. And we were able to really, you might class this as a rebrand rather than a debrand, but it's the same thing in a way. However, we debranded the user journey. And what we mean by that is that old brand, this that we just showed you here, was utilized within a website like this. And it became a lot a lot of it was irrelevant and a lot of it was confusing. And this was their old website. And so a Debrand allowed us to go from this over to this. It's a lot clearer. It's a lot more impactful. It's eradicated any confusion. And we would class that as a very successful Debrand. And this is being created and built as we speak and relaunched. So it's becoming a lot more sophisticated. It's got a lot more digital trust, which all of a sudden means a lot more relevance. It becomes a lot more appealing to corporations and businesses to utilize this software. And so that is a successful Debrand. So, in summary, and this is the end, and there's plenty of time for Q&A. And if you've got 10 o'clock, I'll give you lots of time at the end, which is brilliant. In summary,
I'm back.
We want to tell you
I
to
should
be
surprise myself then.
to be critical. Is your brand creating those roadblocks? Be clear. Is your brand legible from afar? Be digital. Does your brand hold up to digital standards? Be thorough. It's not just your logo, it's your language, it's your color, it's your shape. How is that utilized through digital? Be creative. How could you make your brand work better? And be honest. Do you need help? Do you not quite understand it yet? And that is hopefully enough of an introduction to Debranding. So I'm going to close this now and I'm going to come back. And if there's any questions, hopefully we'll be able to answer them.
There has been a few actually. So Anita asked, how do you feel about the trend to ditch the 3D logo in favor of flat ones with flat designs?
Yeah, so really, I think hopefully that's proven as the presentation went on is clarity. So you're deciphering 3D and gradient with your mark. You don't realize, but actually you're deciphering. You're taking more brain power to make that decision and get through to the end goal. A flat color is more trustworthy within a digital age, and it's easier to dissect. And it's easier to link through to what you want to achieve. It holds a lot more trust as a brand. And so regardless of opinion, it's proven that a flat color approach is better for conversion. So, yeah.
And there was kind of a question about how to get a brand working across like multi-channel, multifunctional groups, basically, in a company. It's quite... I've seen it done in different places before, but it's. Have you got any thoughts about that, Tom? I mean, obviously it varies on channel, and
sorry. So can you repeat the question? Sorry, Katie. What did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just find it because it might just. There was one actually quickly you can answer about: is Debrand the same as rebrand? And Aaron gave an excellent reply.
Gotcha. Okay, brilliant. Well done, Aaron. So Debrand is essentially there's lots of different approaches, as we say. It's depending on what the reason you wish to achieve via. So Debrand we would see as a simplifying message. So if you're trying to achieve an outcome, you would debrand in order to help achieve that. A rebrand would be a new take, a new look, a new beginning, whatever it may be. But they are very, very similar. You could argue that a lot of rebrands are Debrands. However, you can kind of like see what a Debrand is when you go flat, when you go more mobile first. So actually, we will probably turn it on its head and say a rebrand is more of a Debrand these days. But they are very, very similar indeed. Yeah, there's not a lot to it, but you can do a Debrand subtly. You can make a very small change via a Debrand. You can also make a massive change. So #quiz, you could argue that I showed you was a rebrand. Latham's, you could argue that is solely a Debrand because we've just stripped aspects back and made the color a lot clearer.
I've got more clarification on that other question. Basically, how do you get a brand without wording to work across new multifunctional groups, like in service companies? It's quite a tough one, isn't it, without getting the context? But
Yeah, absolutely. And that's reliant on obviously the message within the actual ad or the icon itself, whatever it may be. In terms of an Instagram feed, for example, I would always put your brand into the actual asset itself, the picture, the video, and keep it there at all times, because you're going to offer consideration to competitors. Your brand is your fingerprint. So you're not trying to convey a message with your brand. You're trying to convey your fingerprint, your identity. You're trying to get that across. So I would eliminate all wording from your brand, from your logo, because that should be within the message of the ad itself. That's what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, you're going to have multiple messages. If you've got a logo with wording and branding and whatever it may be, or words or a strap line, people are expected to read that as well as the actual message of the ad itself. And so every time you add a message, if you've got 2 ads on a page, it doesn't mean you've got 50%, two call to actions on a page, doesn't mean you've got 50% on one and 50% on the other. It's actually diluted. If you've got 1 message on a page, 80% of the people will read that. If you've got 2 messages on a page, 30% of will read both messages. So actually you've got a combined 60%, whereas with 1 message you only had a combined 80%. So actually the more you put on a page, it dilutes that message constantly. So your brand is purely your fingerprint, your identity. Do not offer consideration to competitors.
And Emma Keane asks, if your business name is long, how do you suggest we create a social pixel, product image, logo icon, or squeeze in the name, which no one can read?
Absolutely. So as you saw there with the example with like logo, for example, I made it, if you've got anything that's noticeable within the actual typography of the word itself, utilize the first letter. You'll see Annika, the favicon. If you go into ours, we don't utilize our full word. We use the A as our favicon, and actually bring in a couple of the colors with planets. If you look at Pfizer, for example, they haven't got that privilege to use the P, because phonetically you pronounce it for Pfizer. So you wouldn't associate with the P, which is why they've gone away and developed an icon that they can utilize within that digital world. They've got this new symbol, so to speak. So that's why they've gone away and created that, is because they can't essentially mimic their brand through letters alone.
Just an aside question. Someone said, with the BK logo, when was the original one from? Do you know?
The Burger King. Yeah, I think it was the 70s through to the 80s and into the early, I think it was 1993 they used that original one till. We all probably remember it when we were younger, to be honest with you. And then they brought in that the one with the blue stripe around early 2000s. I don't know what they were using in the interim, but I'll have a look at that.
It's funny how they've all evolved, isn't it? And I think when you kind of get to my age, you've kind of seen it all. It's kind of to some degree, and how everything gets so overcomplicated and then it's stripped back. And I loved what you presented about the designer names as well, because I like my designer names, don't I? So yeah, I enjoyed that bit especially. Yeah, I think that's kind of. See if there's anything else. I think Aaron asked something about Weight Watchers stripping it back to the W, which I thought was quite interesting.
Oh yeah, what did he say there?
I think he's just saying he spotted that, and after watching this, you've got lots of compliments, Tom. So hopefully I'll put an offer out to get you some decent reviews then. Best webinar I've seen in a long time. Clear, concise, engaging, and insightful.
Well, there you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah. Just let me go Q&A. Yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. I really enjoyed that. I suppose just to kind of make everyone aware, I mean, Tom can talk about this as well. Just putting a link in about Leicester Digital Live. It's on the, basically Tuesday, the 7th of June. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We've got big brand speakers. We've got to add on to this link I've just put out there. But it's all around e-commerce, lead gen, social media, paid search, SEO. And we've got some of the leading UK speakers come in. We've got 2 streams all about, inspiration, innovation. And then we've got a technology showcase. And also it's a non-profit event. So any money made from sponsorship If you want to be an exhibitor, it actually will go to a Ukrainian refugee charity. So it's just going to be an amazing event. We're all excited about it. It's at Winstanley House. So definitely, get in touch. I've just put Angela's email address in as well, if anyone's interested in a stand, because we're really excited about all of that. And then also, I just want to share a couple more things quickly. Just going to put this on. So as a slide out, obviously Tom's done this completely off his own back. It's been a hell of a busy week. He's been at events this week as well. So thank you very much, Tom. And if anyone can leave a review just to say how well today's gone, that'd be great. Really appreciate that. And then on a final note, just about our boot camps. So just in terms of our 12-week boot camps, we'll be starting some more, and we're looking to do those mid-June. We're looking maybe to do a fast track one, probably a bit more suitable for students, but we'll look at that. But then, for anybody else, definitely have a look. The course itself and the DMI qualification at the end. When I looked at doing this, when I worked at Interflora, it was going to cost me about £3,000. This is a way that you can access it for free. If it's employer sponsored, if you want to sponsor any members of staff, it's just a nominal fee, about 10% of that. So yeah, please take a look. It's really worth it. The feedback we've had off the current boot camp has been absolutely amazing. I spoke to a lot of the learners yesterday, and so many of them have been promoted or moved role. It's just been so good for them. We had quite a few people who are unemployed. Now they've got jobs. It's a decent course, and we're very, very proud of it. So yeah, I think that's it really. Have you got anything to add in, Tom?
No, just go away and debrand yourselves. And if you get stuck,
I'll get in touch with Tom to help you do it. Just a little plug there at the end. All right then. Okay.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. If anybody needs anything, it's katie@annika.co.uk. Just get in touch. Everyone's saying thank you. Loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I loved it too. So great. All right then. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys. See you.
Bye.